One of the most important things for a great conversation is the stories that are being told. Now, you might think to yourself, we're not talking about stories, we're talking about the weather, we're talking about whatever it is. But we as humans are meaning makers. Every single thing that happens, we create stories around it. And the more compelling the story, the more we want to take part in it. Let me give you a clear example. If I asked you to do the dishes today, you would think to yourself, okay, I can do the dishes, but whatever, I'll get it done. You might want to create a good impression. You might want to, whatever story you're telling yourself around it is how you're going to show up for that exact action. So if doing the dishes today means yet another task, I need to do this on top of this or on top of this. And actually, I take this idea from Tony Robbins that I try to write my tasks as I get to do this. I get the opportunity to do this. The difference in that mindset is that I have to do this, even if it's something that you dreamed about. You dreamed about this job, and now it's like I have to do this because this is what they're telling me I have to do. I have to do this or else I'm not going to make money, or I'm not going to be able to afford things, or that is a horrible story to be a part of. Individually, of course. Whereas I get to do this, and granted, fine, doing the dishes, you're not going to maybe think to yourself, I get to do this. But those dishes, especially if you were a college student, you didn't have the best dishes, nothing matched in any of the sets. I get to wash my dish set that's a full set. That's unbelievable. I've waited for 4 dishes. And we get to these different stages in life. As kids, we're always wanting to be adults. And now I get to do this. I get to be responsible for this. So, fine, when it comes to individual work, that's also important. But we see how this also plays out in conversations. When we create stories, we create roles in those stories. So if I tell you a story of today, you're going to go to training because you're horrible and you just need to save yourself from being this horrible place in this horrible place that you're in, you're not healthy, you're not doing well, then you're going to show up maybe, and you might even push yourself a lot. But the second that you are not matching that story, the second that story doesn't appeal to you anymore, the second you maybe even love yourself enough that this isn't a story that speaks to you, you will not step into that role anymore. We have to change our stories. Now, how does this play into conversation? Well, we create stories about what conversations mean. We create roles, and we do this in a matter of a second. We literally look at someone new, for example, and whether that person is in our field of interest, whether that person has something that might be relevant for us, whether that person is even just genuinely interesting. And when I say field of interest, I don't just mean work. Sometimes you see someone and you're like, that person dresses well. That person's cool. That person has a nice haircut. How can I grow from them? Some people do this in a form of jealousy that takes away from the other. But the best form is really to look out into the world and see a bunch of people who can teach you things. Now, if you show up to someone, you have to be aware of the role that you are presenting to them. And this plays into our video on the silent conversation. But the stories we tell, if we show up to an argument, for example, and the story we're telling ourselves is, I stand for this idea, what we do is we project, like a projector, like a screen projector, we project out onto reality a story. And in this story, I'm the hero, and I stood for this, and I've stood for this my whole life. And we might not even be aware that this is the story we're entering, but we're filled with this energy of a role that we're taking on. Now, if you're the hero and you're fighting something, where does that leave the other person? Most people, when we enter arguments, the other person needs to be a villain. We enter an argument, we're getting upset, something triggers us, something that we already had in our story seems to play out into reality. And then this person is perfectly taking that position. But it's not just in fights that roles exist. Roles exist in every conversation we have. Every time you are having a conversation with someone, you might think, I'm just recognizing who they are. But they wear many hats, they take on many roles. If you're speaking to a teacher, and all you see that teacher as is someone who needs to be this ideal role model that you've had in your mind, then you're not going to see the person there. And it's true, sometimes teachers are not exactly what we want them to be. But if you approach someone and the role that you offer them is a role that is welcoming, that is inviting, more times than not, you are going to see people fill up with an energy that is outside of what's going on in that conversation. What do I mean by that? You approach someone and you ask them a genuine question about something that you want to know, that you want to understand. You approach someone who you see as a wonderful spouse, and you say to them, how do you do it? How do you think about this role? The role you've just offered them is not a role of, I'm going to check every single thing that you say, and I'm going to criticize it, and it is a role where I'm entering as a humble person to your wisdom. I care to learn from you. I think you do something really well, better than I consciously think I'm doing now, or in ways that I don't think I'm doing right now, and I would love to learn from you. Most people want to help. Most people. Of course you're going to have exceptions, but you can see that also. But sometimes we offer roles to people that they don't want, that they didn't ask for. Sometimes you might ask someone, and it's true, sometimes you might even offer a teacher role. Hey, I really want to know from you, how do you do so well in business? How are you so successful? How are you so interesting? How are you so good in this capacity? And then they say to themselves, and you're going to see this as well, you extended out an offer, you extended out a branch for them to grab onto, and you're like, look, it's a branch, and I've put peanut butter on it. Peanut butter is wonderful. And for you, it really might be. People will often feel that energy, but sometimes people don't want that role. All of us have been seen in ways, have had our identities and dimensionality reduced. So we have all these dimensions. I'm this kind of a person, and I think this sort of way, and I can do this. And instead people just see you as, oh, you're really good at that topic, so I'm going to ask you about it. I understand I'm good at it, but I didn't ask to be your teacher in math, your teacher in sciences. Although in my case, I do enjoy math, and I do enjoy talking about it. But these roles, these stories that we tell, are the worlds that people literally enter. People don't know what to expect, what to think, and most of the time our mind defaults to a mode of being that is just existing on autopilot, not present, not interested in, not trying to spend too much energy. Because try over and over. You want to be a nice person, so you smile. You want to be a good person, so you simplify what you need to do. But when we create roles for people, it's almost like acting. Imagine you were to offer someone an improv role that is fun and funny and interesting, versus if you offer someone a role where it's like, I'm the main character, I'm the greatest in the world, and you're going to be my supporting character along this journey, and you're just whatever it is that I've put you into this category. You're the person who's by the bridge, or the short characters that are creatures that are in legends that guard the bridge. People feel the energy that we bring to them. People feel the story we're telling ourselves. People feel the story that we're telling them. and people feel, and of course you can have different stories about the situation. But when you enter a conversation and the feeling is, this is important, I need to be here, I need to be present, there is something that I can learn here. And something I can learn doesn't mean that they have to play the teacher role that I have in mind. Something I can learn means I am playing the student role. And this is something I would recommend. This is my own personal method, of course. But when you go into the world and you are the student, and you are a student of the world, people can feel that. This person's curious, this person wants to learn, this person's interested, this person listens. And it's equally important when you play that student role, not to just to always be absorbing, but sometimes you also want to be building. If you always enter conversations and all you do is have a conversation with someone and you have so much to teach me, but you don't see yourself as an equal contributor, you don't see yourself as a contributor whatsoever, then what ends up happening is you are taking a lot, but you don't give back. And part of being seen is giving back. There are many roles that we can take on, and sometimes actually in the best conversations, the real conversations involve playing all these different roles. There's a whole universe out there. And sometimes, especially when you're being funny, you made a mistake and you want to joke about it because it is funny to you. You play a role of, oh my gosh, so silly, like how could I even think such a thing? And no role is off limits, no role. But recognize the role that you offer others. And the better you get to know others, the more you're going to understand and feel what roles feel most comfortable for them, what roles they would choose for themselves, what stories they tell to themselves. Are they a hero in their world? So be a fellow hero alongside them, or be whoever it is that you are, and recognize how those roles interact. Maybe you are now in a period of your life where you are dedicating all your energy to being the king of your world, the king in your royalty, in your leadership, But even a king needs to see when someone says, I see myself as a gardener. I love my garden and I care for my garden. And the better you as a king are able to interact with that gardener, the better you can understand the role that they choose to take on, the better you can offer roles to them. You can offer conversation to them. The better they can see, the more you feel respected in your role and in your being seen, the more you want to give to others as well. There is this desire for reciprocity. And when we create these roles in conversation, people come to life, people play along the lines of different things. It's almost as though you really walk into an improv show and anyone can walk in the door, and then on the table at the entrance, you have all these different roles that people can pick. When you allow people that freedom to pick who they want to be, and you play along with that, and then sometimes when you build that level of confidence and understanding and seeing them, sometimes you'll even push them into a role that they weren't expecting. They are the sweetest person in the world, and then all of a sudden you're like, they let out a backhanded compliment, and you're like, oh, I see the villain has come out. Or someone's very mature, and they always play the mature role, and you offer that to them, or you see that in them. But then you ask them a question where their inner child is forced out. Or you ask them specifically about their inner child. See the roles that people play, and not just see the roles that people want to play, but enter into a conversation with people where you are both present, where it is a wonderful time. The story that you should be telling when you enter conversations is that this is an environment that is safe. And when I say safe, I don't mean safe because I'm going to block out this or control any of these boundaries. This is a safe environment because what you bring to the table is just as important to me as what I'm bringing to the table. when you tell me something and what matters to you, some people, it is so important for them that their political views be protected and that they shouldn't be too challenged on whatever it is that they believe. I'm not saying this will be a perfect conversation because you're going to stay perfectly within those borders. But what I am saying is that first you enter, you build that trust with a person. And then when you build that trust, I've watched people who are so incredibly intense about their political views admit that maybe it's possible that there was someone right on the other side. I'm not going to say anything. And you just enter the state where you no longer have to, people are playing those roles, but and offering people those roles, because ultimately you have to play a role when you enter into a conversation. You have to create some sort of story. But when you are friends and speaking to the storyteller, and people very often forget that we are storytellers, we get so stuck in the roles we've created for ourselves. When you speak to the storyteller, that is when they feel respected. You play with different roles. You can be all the characters in the world, and that's when you get to fully be yourself. As a kid, you don't think to yourself, I'm only the king and I'm going to be the king every single day. Sometimes you want to be Spider-Man. The next week you want to be Batman. The next week you want to be the mailman. The next week you want to be the garbage man. Every single person has their role. And when you can accept that and see the humanity of every single person and the importance of every single role that people choose for themselves, that is when you also get that full freedom to choose whatever role it is that, and you're not limited. You can act in any film, movie, whatever it is. You can be yourself and bring your art to whatever role it is. You could be the person who, the king who is kind. You could be the dictatorial teacher. You can be whoever it is in those roles. So I hope that I pray that we all find freedom to play these roles, to be who it is that we need to be in conversation, and to remember that we are the storytellers, and to create beautiful stories of conversations with beautiful roles for us and everyone alongside us. Thank you.